So in this video I'm going to talk about the exercises that I used to get fluent in Spanish. Now here's a little before and after just to kind of show you.
Hola, estoy comiendo comida. Voy a mejorar mi español. Y ahora puedo hablar de más o menos muchas cosas, pero hay un límite.
Y ahora te voy a mostrar mi español, puedo hablar con fluidez, puedo hablar con la gente, puedo tener conversaciones. Recién he hecho como videos mostrando y como hablando mi español para que la gente pueda como ver cómo mi español ha mejorado. There we go. So I recommend watching that first video. I'll put it in the description of this one. You've probably seen it. But in this video, I'm going to go through the exercises. So far, I went through what fluency is, Spanish versus real Spanish, the fluency equation, and the learn and ladders. Now I'm going to go through the Cognate cheat code, transcript training, narrate, elaborate, contemplate, and speaking with natives. Now, first is the Cognate cheat code. I started learning Spanish around 2022. So this was 2 years ago, right? 2022, and around beginning, February, March, April, this guy in my class, he'd made it a trend to start studying Spanish. And in Sweden, if you didn't know, you get to choose between Spanish or French. And for me and many others in the class, we all chose Spanish because it was like the easier language anyway. And Spanish is just cooler than French. Like, let's be honest, it's more useful as well. So I chose Spanish. And for the first year from 6th grade to 7th grade, so 2021 to 2022, I literally didn't care for the language at all. But in 2022, this guy in my class had made it a trend to sort of like study Duolingo in your free time. And when he started doing it, he started getting A's in Spanish. And granted, it was pretty easy to get A's, but he was excelling. And he wasn't like a super high level student, like no shade to him, but he wasn't like a super good student, but he was still getting A's in Spanish. And all he was doing was playing like this game called Duolingo, right? So naturally, it started becoming like a trend almost. And people in the class would start studying Duolingo in their free time. And so I, naturally having this like feeling of being the best. Growing up I always played games and I was always trying to be the best. Like in Minecraft I learned how to like God bridge and stuff. I learned how to do all the techniques. Me naturally being competitive, I wanted to be the best. So I did research for many days. I started obsessing over like this language apps. I found this YouTuber named Akena, and Akena made like this tier list, and he speaks like 8 languages fluently. So I saw his opinion as very valid. And he put 2 apps in S tier, and he put Duolingo like D tier. He put Pimsleur and another app called Language Transfer at S tier. Pimsleur is paid for and it's like a podcast. Language Transfer is also like a course or like a podcast, but it was free. So I chose Language Transfer. And within the first 10 to 15 lessons, he introduced this concept of cognates. Now, in the language learning community, cognates, everyone knows about them. They're like the first thing that you want to sort of understand. And thankfully, because Spanish and English, Spanish is a Latin language, everyone knows that, but people say that English is a Germanic language, but it has so many Latin roots in it that you can say it's also like it has so much like Latin in it that you have around about 3,000 Spanish words that you and me already know from just converting them using this concept of cognate. So that's why the app is called Language Transfer. I assume he named it after that, of just transferring your knowledge from English to Spanish. That's also why Spanish is an easier language to learn compared to like Chinese or Arabic, because Arabic is a whole different concept of root words and like all that weird like different stuff. Granted, Language Transfer also does have an Arabic course, so maybe there is another way to do that. But generally speaking, for Spanish, he introduced this concept of cognates, and within the first 5 to 10 lessons, I was so mind blown about how much I already knew of Spanish that I started telling all my friends about it. And I told one of my friends first, and he thought it was so good that he wanted to gatekeep it from everyone else. So because it was such a almost like a trend, obviously he wanted to gatekeep it. It's kind of like if your class is into fragrances, if everyone in your class has fragrances, you want to gatekeep your own fragrance. That is like really good, right? So in that same way, we gatekept this app. Eventually people found out about Language Transfer. And anyway, so this was the first concept that the first idea of the first exercise, so to speak, that really started my language learning journey. And after that, the summer of 2022, I used this along with the other methods I'm going to cover, the other exercises I'm going to cover, to really catapult my learning journey. Before I actually start with everything, if you want to join my private Spanish school, the first 10 people that join is completely free. It's in the top link in the description. Just make like your school account and then request. And I'll do personal coaching, weekly coaching, all of that. So if you're interested in getting fluent in Spanish using my method, then just join the community. I'm really only doing it for free, if I'm being honest, because I want testimonials and I want reviews. So If you're down to give me a review to learn Spanish and get free coaching, then top link in the description. So, the Cognate cheat code. Now, words in English that end with AL, like the word normal. In Spanish, they're the exact same, except made Spanishy. And this made Spanishy, like accent, is just making the vowels. Vowels in Spanish are like a, e, I, u, o, right? So, the word for normal in Spanish is normal. Normal. You just pronounce it in a Spanishy way using the vowels. So, any word that ends with AL, like normal, formal, informal, real, all that, it's the same in Spanish. So, the word for normal in Spanish is normal. The word for formal is formal. The word for personal is persona. The word for informal is informal. Hospital. Okay, so that was like the first one I got introduced to. And any words that end with li, so this AL, right? But then you put a li behind it. That li will become mente. So for example, we have normal becomes normal. But if you want to say normally, you'd say normalmente. So you could say, so just from that, we can already start building sentences. So we have normally, formally, personally, it's all the same. Normalmente, formalmente, personalmente, informalmente, realmente, etc. All the same. And when I first discovered this, I was like, what? And this is not only one. This is why I call it a cheat code, because you get it. Obviously, we don't want to memorize these. We want to understand the concepts, but that's the concept right there. And there are actually tons of these rules, and I don't want to go through all of them. It's just the concept I want to teach you, like the strategy of what we do. So all of these rules together equate to about 3,000 Spanish words, and most of the rules that I could think of. So normal becomes normal, normally becomes normalmente. Words that end with ation become acción, so presentation becomes presentación. To say to present, take off the acción, put ar, so presentation, presentación, presentar. Words that end with ible or hable are the same, so possible is posible, accesible, notable, etc. ANT words become entante, so inteligente or vigilante or conveniente or interesante, etc. Words that end with ENCE or ANCE become enciencia, so conference becomes conferencia, abundance, abundancia, intelligence, inteligencia. Ical words become icoaco, so historical, which would be historica, chemical, químico, etc. Like there are tons of these rules. I'm not gonna go through every single one. Some of them, like for example, some of them you can just put an O at the end or an A at the end and you get it. Car becomes carro, problem is problema, favorite is favorita, list is lista, insect is insecto, and some words are literally the exact same. Idea is idea. Like there's so many of these like things that are just the same that like you can just guess. Like you can guess for the word for implementation. Like it's crazy. So that's the first thing that like really got me fluent. So that's the Cognate cheat code. Just understanding how like the Latin roots can get you so much. Now obviously I'm not covering every single one. I'm not going deep into it. I'm not practicing with you. But if you just look at this screen, you can probably see and make your own patterns. So that's the Cognate cheat code. Next is transcript training. So during the summer when I actually started learning and actually started studying Spanish, okay, I was trying to test out tons of different methods, and I found this YouTuber named Language Lords, and he used this method of studying real Spanish content, like real native Spanish content, in order to get fluent. And it just made so much sense to me, because when we're kids and we're learning Spanish or whatever language, we didn't use Duolingo, we didn't use flashcards. Even though I tried that during the summer, we just listened to our parents and essentially studied it 24/7. You want to know how I learned English, bro? I watched English YouTube with subtitles, and eventually I learned how to talk and write and all that from subtitles and watching like YouTube and Netflix and all that. That's how I learned English, like my native language, pretty much. Or kind of like my native language. But anyway, so I made this exercise called transcript training based on like what I saw from Language Lords. And if we refer back to the Lure ladder, which I talked about in the last video, the Lure ladder to get fluent is just listen and understand and repeat over and over again. And this transcript training is the vehicle for that. The main distinguisher here is that transcript training gets you learning real Spanish. And that's the difference between people who genuinely learn and people who don't. It's like the difference between flashcards and real Spanish, right? Like flashcard doesn't teach you any real Spanish. Like I made during the summer, I made like 120 word list of Spanish words. I remember 5 of those words. I remember auriculares or something like that for headphones. I remember like, but I don't even remember anything else, but that's like all I remember. So step 1 of transcript training, find a piece of native Spanish content For me, I did about an hour total. So I picked one episode, which was like 45 minutes, and like one YouTube video, mainly just a video show. And it's better if the transcript is personally written. That's why I chose Netflix, because Netflix subtitles have people actually writing it, and it has the CC version, like the direct translation version. So that's why Netflix and Amazon Prime and these things are better to study than maybe YouTube, because YouTube is automatic, which means it can make some mistakes. So I chose Spanish content, native Spanish content specifically. Step 1, watch and listen with Spanish subtitles. The second step was, as soon as I heard a word or sentence that I didn't understand, I would understand it, and the simplest way is to translate it. Now, that doesn't always work, so I've tweaked this a little. But translating it, what I did was I translated it by either changing the subtitles, which will give you the best translation because it's handwritten by the people. But sometimes that doesn't make any sense, because like you want to understand, the point is that we understand the concepts about why it ends up like that. So I use a combination of translating with DeepL and to get the context down, using the translation in the subtitles. I just spit everywhere. 4 is just to understand what they're saying and the concept behind it. So if I said estoy hablando español, okay, and I heard estoy hablando español, then I would want to understand, okay, the concept there is like, okay, sometimes they don't pronounce the estoy like that, they pronounce toy. Acatoy. I was watching a show that the girl said acatoy. And acá means here, and toy means, or estoy means I am. So here I am. Acatoy. And that's how they said it. And so it's understanding the concept about how we got like the conjugation there. And there you can use different websites like SpanishDict.com. Before, when I did it, I just used DeepL, translate. It's that simple. Then I rewatched that part again that I didn't understand, but without any subtitles. So now it's just purely just as though I'm hearing it in real life. And if you struggle hearing the words, the point is to try to hear if they're put together. So for example, when the girl said acatoy, right? I didn't hear acá estoy. I didn't hear acá estoy. But it's about generalizing it to, okay, if someone says toy, I can assume that they're saying estoy, even though it could be something else maybe. It's about understanding how the words are smushed together, and to understand that we could slow it down. And I only did that for very few parts that sounded like disgusting. And like, when I say disgusting, I mean there are a few parts that sounded like extremely hard to understand. For those parts, then it's fine to like slow it down a little, but then speeding it back up is very important. So rewatching it without any subtitles. Step 6 is just repeat that entire process from step 1 until I finished everything. And I did that for about the entire show. So that's the strategy of the first exercise that I did. And I tested out many different methods. That was the first one that generally worked, and I call it transcript training. Second one is a simple framework I call Narrate, Elaborate, Contemplate. Okay? Now, as I was going through this, I knew I needed a listening exercise and a speaking exercise, because the fluency equation was speaking times understanding, and it was all native Spanish. So I had to find an exercise where I listened and understood native Spanish content, which was transcript training, and I needed another exercise to speak and understand what I'm saying all in native Spanish. And so the simple framework I made here is called Narrate, Elaborate, Contemplate, and this is how it goes. So again, this is climbing the Sur ladder. So the transcript training was for Lur ladder, this one is for the Sur ladder. So we speak, understand, repeat, and for that I use this framework. So first part is to narrate, which essentially just means tell stories or also narrate, like just say things, just yap, like he's eating, I'm eating, they see him, I ate yesterday. Okay, that's just like narrating. This is like level 1. Okay, the next part is to elaborate. Okay, so what is he eating? So what did I eat? Right? So if I say I ate, that's a narration. I ate. Okay? Or you're telling a story maybe. I ate a sandwich. Right? So for example, he is eating a sandwich under the bench at 8:20 a.m. I drank a smoothie last night. Okay? So it's about elaborating. Okay, what are we doing now? So first part is what happened. Second part is what's going on. And the third part is then contemplate, which is why did that happen. He ate is the narrate. He ate a sandwich is elaborate, but contemplate is, why was he under a bench? He might have been thinking about his homework, or maybe that's just what he likes to do in his free time. He just likes to eat sandwiches under his bench, right? If you didn't notice, it's basically a framework for yapping, and all we do is we speak. This is just to get things to talk about, right? This is just to find what to talk about, and as soon as we don't understand, we go back to the how to understand it, where, you know, we go to DeepL to translate it, or SpanishDict to understand verb conjugation. Those are the two websites I like to use the most, DeepL and SpanishDict. So another example is, I drank a smoothie last night. Did I drink the smoothie last night because I was tired? and then you'd find a way to say it. So, how do you say smoothie? And then you translate smoothie. Last night anoche porque estaba cansado, right? And then continue. So that's it. Narrate, elaborate, contemplate. Simple. That's how we climb the Sir ladder. Essentially, we just yap, and then we try to understand what to yap about, and then we continue. And generally, this is how we learned how to speak as well. As a kid, you spoke, you didn't know what to say, you ask your mom, how do you say that thing up there, right? And then she tells you it's a roller coaster. And then you say, I like roller coasters. Boom, right? That's what we're trying to get here. Last one is speaking with natives, and this is the most important exercise. If you refer back to the fluency equation, the best exercise to get fluent is speaking and understanding. And if you think about it, speaking and understanding to natives is what a conversation consists of. So speaking and having a conversation with natives is the best exercise. Generally, the best exercise to do is that, because think about it, if you want to learn how to speak with natives and have a conversation with natives, you need to have conversations with natives. Now the thing is, most of us can't really do that. It's a little impractical. That's why I made these two exercises for myself. But the best way to climb the Learn Sir ladders is to do the exercise that incorporates both, which is conversations. So speaking with natives is the best exercise to learn Spanish, and speaking from day one is actually the most important thing ever. Like, it's one of the most biggest mistakes that people make. They think that they can't speak from day one. It's just cap. I started doing language transfer and all that. Firstly, language transfer gives you sentences to say, but not only that, me and my friend, we were doing it together, and we tried to sometimes speak in Spanish together to talk about what to talk about and stuff. And even when I was just learning Spanish, I downloaded an app called Hello Talk. And I just tried speaking with people, and even though I couldn't say stuff, even though I was shy and you know what to say, it's the most vital step to start learning. And I'll give you a real life example. So I found a YouTuber named Shauma, and he started getting fluent in Spanish just by speaking from day one with no memorization or anything. And he got fluent very quickly. So let me show you that example. Hold on. So here's the video. I don't think you can hear the audio, so yeah. But anyway, so in this video, he's just speaking all day. He's watching Spanish shows. He's listening to, in this scene right here, he's talking to his friend in Spanish, and he's teaching him to cook. Here, he's watching Spanish shows, and he has his tutors. He's speaking with tutors, and he's just trying to get sentences down. He's talking about how he dreamt about Spanish. He dreamt about Spanish grammar. He was studying with a Spanish tutor from Colombia, and that's literally all he did. He wanted these games. He literally only spoke Spanish, okay? And here you go again. He was talking to one of his friends in Spanish, speaking to his tutor again. He just spoke Spanish. He just had conversations with natives. What do they call this? Omegle, but for Spaniards. And again, here he's speaking. He spent the entire time speaking, and later on he made a video talking about what he did, and he was speaking completely fluently. So in this video, he's literally speaking fluent Spanish, and he's talking about what he did, okay? So he started off by saying he'll get fluent in Spanish, and he'll get fluent to speak. And now he can, speak fluently, and then he wants to talk about how he learned it. And before he tried memorizing a dictionary, but he couldn't. And this time he didn't want to study using textbooks. He just spoke. And here it says he was surprised about how much he could learn from Cognate, because previously he learned Chinese. And he just did tutoring for hours a day where he spoke with a teacher. And that's literally just how he got fluent. You can watch, you can't hear the audio from the video. But yeah. He just spoke with people. He just spoke. He went on a call. He literally just had conversations for 30 days. And by the end of it, he was fluent. Now, granted, he knows how languages work, so he knows what to study. But, other than that, pretty much just that. He just spoke for the entire 30 days. And within 4 weeks, he was fluent enough to make this video just in Spanish. And, yeah, 4th week. And he's saying his Spanish is not perfect, but he can talk about a lot of things fluently. He probably can't understand Spanish that well. When I tried learning it, climbing the Lur ladder is way harder than the Sir ladder. Just to translate that, Lur ladder essentially just understanding native Spanish is way harder than speaking native Spanish. People told me I don't sound like I'm a gringo. People tell me my accent's fine. I don't sound like I'm like someone that's learning Spanish, okay? But I still struggle sometimes understanding Spanish. And totally, I probably put 140 hours of studying. After the summer, I didn't really study, and then this summer I studied a bit, 3 weeks now, and I studied less than an hour a day so far. So I've studied a fair bit. I've studied 140, 150 hours of Spanish, which is still way better than 600 hours of studying, which is what the average is. The average person to get fluent is 600 hours of studying, and they're probably not even fluent by the end. They're just lying. Yeah, it's crazy. But yeah, the point is, speaking with natives is exercise, and the best way to do that is genuinely to download an app like Tandem or Hello Talk. I prefer Hello Talk. Finding either a language exchange student, or what I prefer, just go into these live chats, and in the live chats you can speak and have conversations. That's literally it. And so that's what I did in that summer, and around the end of the summer, I was able to have like an hour-long conversation on Hello Talk with natives, and at that point I had achieved my goal pretty much of being like conversationally fluent. So yeah, those are the exercises that I use to get fluent in Spanish in like less than 120 hours of studying. I really hope that you use these methods, and if you are serious about learning Spanish, then again, you can join a private Spanish school, which I just made, where you can get my personal help in getting fluent in Spanish and using these methods. I'm working on courses and stuff to put into the like community, but it's very fresh and new. So if you want to join for free, the first 10 people that join is completely free. So just click the top link in the description to join, and I'll personally coach you in Spanish. And I hope this video has helped you, bro, and stay humble.